Welcome back, guys. Well, as the title of the video says, hit my 6-year prime anniversary. A couple of days ago. So my official anniversary date for Prime is February 12th. And the way to go back, I went back and watched my 5-year anniversary video because I kind of forgot what I talked about on my anniversary videos. If you don't know your hire date at Prime, or your anniversary date, because I'm not technically a Prime employee, is based on the date you pass your CDL. And that's important for those folks that come to Prime thinking, I'm going to be here a year, I'm going to find something local, or I'm going to find something else and move on. So your anniversary date is the date that you get your CDL. So if you come to Prime, do your orientation, go through the PSD program, and then once you pass PSD, pass your CDL test, that is your official hire date if you're a company driver, or your anniversary date if you are an independent contractor, lease operator, owner operator, whatever. So that's where all your longevity seniority is based off of that date. If you come with your CDL already, that's going to be when you finish orientation. It's going to be your longevity date. So anyway, went back, like I said, and watched my other videos. One of the things, and we'll get to it later, is I talk about my thoughts. Do I still think Prime is a good company? Would I still recommend it? All that sort of stuff. Before we get to that part, I always like to recap my thoughts on, or how I got to this point. 2014, December, it was November 2014 is when I started thinking about coming to Prime. Applied, I think, around about Thanksgiving, got approved to come to Prime. Decided, it's the holidays. I didn't want to leave home at the holidays. Have a wife. At that point, I had a junior high, middle school age daughter. She actually had knee surgery at that time. She had dislocated her knee and done some damage to her knee. Wanted to make sure she got recovered, wanted to stay through the holidays, so I didn't actually leave. And that's one of the nice things about Prime, is they have orientation every week. So got approved to come and ended up coming, I think it was January 9th. Again, that date's not as important because it's not considered my anniversary date for Prime. So I got approved, showed up on January 9th, went through orientation, which at that time was about a week. It's a little bit shorter now. And then went through the Prime Student Driver, PSD, CDL school portion of Prime's training program. It took about a month at that time. It's a little bit shorter of a program right now. But at that time it was about a month, and passed my CDL on my first try, trifected. If you follow anything along with Prime, you know what that means. You pass. There's 3 portions of the CDL test: pre-trip, backing, and then on the road. If you pass all 3 of those on your first try, it's called the trifecta, and you get a little bit of a cash bonus from Prime. Your instructor gets a little bit of a cash bonus as well, so there's incentive to pass it the first time. And it's one of those things, they don't want you to not pass. They want you to learn what you need to learn. So like I said, it took about a month, and February 12th was my official start date when I began trainer and trainee, TNT portion. It's on-the-job training. I was very fortunate. I wanted to be in the tanker division the entire time. I have never done anything but the tanker division for Prime, and it took about 3 months to go through TNT with Prime, all in the tanker division. Switched trainers one time. Well, actually, technically I switched twice because my PSD instructor couldn't do TNT. We thought he could. There was a little bit of a snafu there, but anyway. So I spent a week with him until we realized I had to switch. Had a trainer who in TNT probably shouldn't have been a trainer. Was with him for 2 weeks, and then moved on to my final trainer, who was fantastic. So I had 2 really good trainers, my PSD instructor and my final TNT trainer. And then I had one guy who I learned how not to operate. Probably as valuable from the guy that I had for 2 weeks learning how not to do this job as it was from the other 2 guys learning how to do this job. Kind of reinforced everything the other guys taught me, that this is how, everything that these guys are saying, yeah, that's true. You can make money if you do it this way. And then I had the guy for 2 weeks who complained about this and complained about that and turned loads down and whatnot, and then complain that you can't make money and didn't make money, and then it's like, well, it's because you're not doing what the other guys said, and if you do what the other guys say, you can make money. So there you go. Around about 5th, I upgraded into my own truck, immediately started doing Prime's dedicated tanker account in Decatur, Indiana. At that time, I lived in Michigan. I got home every 2 to 3 weeks or so. Could get a load. Decatur, Indiana, by the way, just south of Fort Wayne, if you don't know. And we get loads that go to Michigan fairly regularly. But the closest to where I lived, which was Traverse City, Michigan at that time, was Grand Rapids, is the closest that we got loads. So I'm going to load to Grand Rapids and then still have to drive 2.5 hours north to go home. It was very difficult to get back. I had to then head back to Decatur when I wanted to start working again. Doable, but it just was very time consuming. It wasted a day of clock. Felt like I was only home for, a day. I would get home on a Friday afternoon. I would have all day Saturday, and then Sunday morning I would have to head back. So it just didn't seem like a great situation for me. So 3 months after starting in Decatur, my family moved to halfway between Decatur and Fort Wayne. We rented. We recently purchased a house, and I have been doing this dedicated account ever since, like I said, at this point, since May 5th-ish of 2015. So almost 6 full years of doing what I do now. So that's the backstory. Before I came to Prime, I spent 17 years in radio. A lot of people tend to comment, you have a great voice. That's because I spent 17 years in radio. That's what I did. That was my main career. And started to not make as much money as I wanted to. Radio is a fantastic career. I would love to still be doing it. However, until you are those guys on the national level, you don't make a lot of money. So I was working in a very small town, ended up having to work a second job, then a third job, and I did sports actually on the radio. And kind of a natural transition was, the teams that I covered would take the bus, and I thought, well, I could drive them. And so I ended up learning first to drive a school bus, because school bus tends to be we'll train you because we desperately need people. Then I started doing charter bus. The school teams would take charter buses, so I would drive the team, announce the game, drive the team back. So that's 3 jobs that I'm working: school bus, radio, charter bus. Ended up moving on and leaving radio, worked in public transit for a couple of years, and then, like I said, November, started thinking about doing something different. Wanted something where I didn't have to work 2 or 3 jobs, and a little bit more consistency. So to my review of Prime after 6 years, wouldn't still be here, obviously, if it weren't something that I still enjoy doing. I have, since I was 16, and probably before that, have always enjoyed the driving portion. Whenever we would go somewhere as a family, I would drive. I just enjoy driving. That part of this job I still absolutely love. I enjoy the challenge when there's a mechanical issue. There's always, I shouldn't say there's always, every now and then you'll run into something where, even today, I'm waiting for the customer to come out so that I can unload. They require a safety vest here, otherwise I don't typically wear that. In 500 feet, turn right. My GPS is already programmed to go home, and now it's telling me where to go. Let's shut that off just so it doesn't interrupt us again. Coming here, there was an air leak in the trailer, and it's not a major thing, but I enjoy the technical part of it. I enjoy the hooking up the hose and all of that. The part that I don't enjoy is this part: waiting, getting here on time. The customer doesn't communicate. Is there a reason that we're waiting? Are they short-staffed? Do they not have room in the tank? Those sorts of things are the things that I don't enjoy about the job. But that's not, first of all, that is part of the job. But you learn patience. You learn that there are things that you can do. I spend a lot of time on my phone. I spend a lot of time. I'm not a big book reader. I enjoy magazines. I've always enjoyed magazines. So I always have several magazines that I can flip through while I'm sitting and waiting for things. But those are the things that I don't enjoy about the job. Otherwise, again, I wouldn't be doing this. This is by far, and I've said this several times, by far the most amount of money, by a factor of 2 times, at least, if not 3 times, or more. You know, when I first started in radio, honestly, I'm not good at math. I made $12,000 a year my first year in radio. So do the math there. I know I've shared some of, I don't think I've made less than $55,000 in a given year doing this. Those are all pre-tax numbers, but just to give you an idea, it's been very, very successful. I made more than that since. That's the least amount I've made since doing this. Now I'm starting to think, and those of you that have followed me for a while, I've had my truck for a year and a half. This particular truck, this is got 2.5 years left on the lease of this truck. I know it's still a while. I know there's a lot of things that are going to happen between now and 2.5 years from now, but I'm already in my head starting to think, okay, what's next? I spent a lot of time through the first 4 years thinking, okay, what do I do when my first lease ends? There was a lot of things. My daughter would graduate high school right around the same time my first lease ended. The lease was up on the place that I was renting. We ended up buying a house after the fact. So we bought a house in the area. So we live in a different town now, but still about 10-15 minutes away from the Decatur terminal. And that ability to go home, and that's the other part of this, I don't think that I would like to go over the road again at this point. When I started doing it, I did it because I had a daughter who was at that time in high school. I wanted the ability to be home to see, her choir concerts, parent, student, teacher conferences, those sorts of things. And then it becomes what you do. And my daughter's in college now. And just because she's not in high school or doing events, I still like to see my wife. I don't have a marriage where I think, boy, I can't wait to leave the house. So I still enjoy that aspect of it where I want to be at home at the end of a given day. So this allows me to do that, and like I said, pays me more. And that's where it's always one of those discussions when you talk money. This pays me more than I've ever made in my entire professional career of doing anything. Are you going to be happy if you make $55,000? Well, if you come to Prime and you make $55,000 your first year, maybe you were making $60,000 or $70,000 as an IT person, and that job goes away for whatever reason, COVID, whatever. So if you come to Prime and you make only $55,000, are you going to be happy? Well, maybe not. For me, for what I had done previously, I can't complain about the money. I've never complained about the money because and like I said, the things that I complain about are sometimes the hours. Sometimes the hours can stink. And sometimes things like this, where I'm sitting and waiting for a customer without knowledge of, when are they going to come out? Do they not have room? Is it going to be an hour? Is it going to be 4 hours? Is it going to be until tomorrow, until they have room? And those are the times that I sit and say, boy, this kind of stinks. I'd rather be doing something different. But they compensate you. I was here on time, so I will get detention if they don't have room and I'm here for more than 2 hours past my appointment time. Is it what I want to do today? No. But at least I'm being compensated if that's what ends up happening. I'm not to that point by any stretch. I've only been here for about 45 minutes. So, but there you go. 6 years in, would I do it again? Absolutely. Best decision I've ever made. Would not be able to live the life that I live right now. Would not have been able to buy the house that we bought. Our credit's terrible. Credit was terrible, certainly 6 years ago. It's much, much better now. And it's because of this. It's because of doing this for 6 years. Wouldn't be able to have, the 2 cars that we have, the camper that we have, all the things that we have, and be able to send my daughter off to college, buy a house, except for the fact that made the decision just over 6 years ago 6 years and 3 months ago to come to Prime. So from that standpoint, would I do it again? Absolutely. 100%. 1,000 times I would make the same decision again. If you're looking to come to Prime, I've said it multiple times. I still think Prime has the best training department, training program in the industry. I know a lot of people look at 50,000 miles after you get your CDL through Prime and say that's a ton of miles. That takes way longer. I can go to company XYZ instead of coming to Prime and getting my own truck in a month. I mean, yeah. Is that the best for you? Are you more apt to make a mistake? Are you more apt to get into an accident if you have less training? Absolutely. Are you guaranteed to? No, of course not. You could go to some other company and get a month's worth of training or less than a month's worth of training and go out and drive 1,000,000 safe miles. There's no doubt. Are you going to be better prepared coming through a Prime program that's going to take you 3, 4, 5 months to go through all of training? 100%. Absolutely. And for that reason, that's why I say I think Prime has the best training program in the industry. You get paid while you're in training. And again, that contributes to the would I do it again? 1,000 times over again. I absolutely would do so. And it helps, obviously, that I found a dedicated lane that I can get home. But that's another topic that, you know, is perhaps an entire other video. I've never been afraid to move. I've lived in 7 different states in my life. And when this opportunity came up in Decatur, Indiana, 3 months in, I said, let's move. I'm not originally from Michigan. I had lived in Minnesota, North Dakota, Illinois, briefly, technically was a resident of Missouri, currently a resident of Ohio, was a resident of Indiana for a little while, for the first few years of doing this. But I moved to where the opportunity was. Some people don't want to do that, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but that's the reason that I would recommend this for anyone who wants to come to Prime. Final note before I let you guys go. Driver Advisory Board is finally going to have an in-person meeting for the first time in a year, coming up 1st of March. Haven't had anything since mid-February, and obviously 2020. What can you say? So we didn't get together ever. Finally going to get together 1st of March, 2nd of March I think it actually is. If you have questions, if you have things you want to address, I'll throw that address down in the description for the Driver Advisory Board, Prime Driver Advisory Board website. You can submit comments directly. Now would be a great time to do it since we're getting together in less than 2 weeks at this point. That way you can get your questions to everyone just before we all get together. You can comment down below if there's something that you want to ask. And obviously you can send me an email if you don't want your name brought up in association with a question. Certainly understand that. You can send me an email directly, and I'll try to get you an answer, or I'll try to get it addressed at DAB. But that's obviously coming up in a couple of weeks, so try to get those questions to me. And obviously, if you have a question that's not a Driver Advisory Board question, if you don't know Driver Advisory Board, you can go back and watch a couple of my videos. Prime gets together, or has gotten together, except for 2020, 3 times a year with a group of drivers and all of the in-house bosses, heads of departments, and Robert Lowe, president, CEO, owner of the company, and talks about how can we make Prime a better company. So if you have big picture ideas, that's what that's for. If you have questions that are a little more simple, you can obviously question down below. Ask me about my experience through 6 years at Prime. Ask about the training program, things like that. I can certainly try to get you answers to those as well. And if you do want to come to Prime, if you listen to this whole thing and say, hey, he's been there for 6 years and he likes it, maybe that's what I want to try. Obviously a link in the description. That'll take you right to the application. And I look forward to seeing you guys if you do decide to come to Prime. That's it, 6 years at Prime. It's kind of crazy to think about that. When I first applied 6 years and 3 months ago, I honestly thought I would be here for a year and find something different, better. I've looked through the last 6 years. I can't find anything that would be better for me than this. Is it out there? Possibly. I don't know. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I've enjoyed my time at Prime. Thanks so much for watching. That's it for this week or this video. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Questions, comments down below. And click on that link if you do want to come to Prime. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys next time.